Hello.
Just want to let everybody know that we are live on YouTube. So just be aware.
Looks like we're waiting on the Senate leaders, with the exception of Senator Pouliot.
I think Jeff is still trying to figure out how to use a computer.
Can we check on Senator Vitelli and Senator Daughtry? Okay, looks like everyone's here now. We'll get started. Call the February 25th meeting of the Legislative Council to order. For those who are watching, just want to provide some quick reminders. As noted at our last Legislative Council meeting, this format is new to all of us, and we expect that there will be unforeseen glitches and mistakes. I ask that everyone be patient. We continue to do our best and learn as we go along, and hopefully we'll improve along the way. So we really appreciate those who are participating in the meeting and those who are watching for your patience. Only Legislative Council members and staff and individuals specifically invited to present information to the Council will be participating in the meeting using Zoom. For other staff members and members of the public wishing to observe this meeting, it is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel, and will also be recorded for viewing after this meeting is concluded. We are also broadcasting the audio of this meeting on the legislature's website at www.mainelegislature.org. For individuals that are participating via Zoom, please remember that this meeting is being live streamed. So if your video or audio is on, the public can see and they can hear you. Please remember to mute your microphone when you are not speaking. Please check to be sure that your name appears correctly on the Zoom screen. So for example, your name should read Representative Smith and not iPhone 6 or Bill's laptop, for example. Because this is a public meeting, please do not use the chat function for substantive discussion. You may use the chat to request to or to indicate that you are having a technical issue or to indicate that you are momentarily stepping away from the screen. Members will speak with leave of the chair using any of the following methods. You can raise your hand. You can use the virtual raise the hand function via Zoom, placing a message in the chat function, or if participating by phone, the member may unmute themselves and say, Mr. Chair. Materials have been emailed to members of the Legislative Council and may also be found on the Legislative Council's website. I think those are all the reminders I have at the top. And I will ask Suzanne Misgresser to call the roll.
Senator Pouliot,
Present.
Senator Timberlake,
Present.
Senator Daughtry,
Present.
Senator Vitelli,
Present.
Representative Stetkis,
Here.
Representative Dillingham,
Here.
Representative Talbot Ross,
Present.
Representative Dunphy,
Present.
Mr. President,
Here.
Mr. Speaker.
Here.
Mr. Speaker, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Gresser. On page 1 of our agenda, you'll find the summary of the January 28th, 2021 meeting of the Legislative Council. Is there a motion?
I move acceptance.
Senator Vitelli has moved acceptance,
Second.
seconded by Senator Pouliot. Any discussion? Seeing none. Suzanne, I'll ask you to call the roll.
Senator Pouliot,
Yes.
Senator Timberlake,
Yes.
Senator Daughtry,
Yes.
Senator Vitelli,
Yes.
Representative Stetkis, Representative Dillingham,
Yes.
Representative Talbot Ross,
Yes. Yes.
Representative Dunphy,
Yes.
Mr. President,
Yes.
and Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you. Reports from the Executive Director and Staff Office Directors. Fiscal report, Mr. Nolan. And the report is found on page 11 of the packet.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. Again, page 11, as the speaker said. Mr. Speaker, Mr. President, members of the council, just wanted to summarize the fiscal briefing. And this reflects activity for January. I will just start with general fund revenue, as I always do. General fund revenue for January was above budget by 89.5 million. And again, just to refresh your memory, budget reflects the adjustments to revenue made in the December revenue forecast. So this is above that revenue forecast amount. That brings us to fiscal year to date to a positive variance of 154.3 million, or 6.6%. Revenue to date is now 4% greater than it was through 7 months of last year. Just to highlight the kind of big three that we focus on that are driving that revenue. Individual income tax revenue was over budget by 59.1 million for the month, and is now over budget by 91.1 million for the fiscal year to date. And a big part of that was individual estimated payments were over budget by 52.3 million for the month, and are now over budget by 61.2 million for the fiscal year to date. Estimated revenue in January is important because it's the final estimated payment for calendar year 20. So it's the last indicator of how 20 is going to look, and also predictive of where we're going to be with any kind of adjustments when final 20 tax payments are due April 15th. So it's a positive, it looks positive, and the expectations are that it'll stay that way. And at least for now, it does not look like there's going to be any kind of negative April surprise. The DAF's released its financial report or monthly revenue report for January this morning. Hopefully you all got that. And they go into this in a lot more detail than I'm going to right now, but I can certainly answer any questions if you have them. As to why those estimated payments, why they are theorizing estimated payments are up at this point. But withholding revenue was under budget by 1.9 million for the month, but remains 16 million over budget for the fiscal year to date. Corporate income tax revenue was over budget by 7.9 million for the month, and is now 26.3 million over for the fiscal year to date. The positive variance for the fiscal year to date is largely a result of estimated payments to date exceeding budget by 22.5 million. So final estimated payments again for the previous calendar year for corporate are due in December, and some carryover to January. Sales and use tax revenue, which reflects December sales, were also over budget by 23.8 million for the month, and are over budget by 33 million for the fiscal year to date. The DAF's report, again, that was released this morning, has the updated sales report, which shows positive sales for December compared to the previous month, and also compared to the previous year in all areas other than restaurants and lodging, which is consistent. I think restaurant and lodging improved a little bit in the 2 months before December, but kind of made negative or had a negative adjustment in December. So I can go into that in a lot more detail. We just try to kind of hit the major items in this briefing. So that is just to remind you where we are in the process. The Economic Forecasting Commission is going to meet at the end of March to do the updated April 1st forecast, and then the Revenue Forecasting Committee is going to meet at the end of April to update and produce its May 1st revenue forecast. And so those will be the final updated forecasts for this session. Those two groups met a couple of weeks ago just to do a preliminary discussion of assumptions, and didn't feel that they needed to have call themselves back in, or could just wait to have those meetings at the end of March and at the end of April. So that is the general fund. If anybody has any questions before I go to the highway fund?
Any questions from the council? Seeing none, Mr. Nolan?
Thank you. Highway fund revenue was under budget by 1.2 million, 4.2% for the month of January, but is still over budget by 1.4 million, or just under 1% for the fiscal year to date. Highway fund revenue through January is now 5% less than at the same point last year. Fuel taxes were under the two major components of the highway fund revenue are fuel taxes and motor vehicle registrations and fees. Fuel taxes were under budget by 1.4 million for the month and by 0.6 million for the fiscal year to date. But motor vehicle registration and fees were over budget by 0.4 million for the month and 1.8 million for the fiscal year to date. So the highway fund is, for the year to date, is slightly above, but went under in January. And unlike general fund, which is up for year-over-year comparison, the highway fund is down, in this case by 5%. And the final thing that we summarize for you in these briefings is looking at the cash balances in the state cash pool. The average balance in the pool for January was 2,630.7 million, or 2.6 billion. And that's an increase from December's average of 2.617 billion. As we discussed last month, the coronavirus relief fund, the 1.25 billion that we got from the feds, we've been spending down that amount, and it went down from December to January from 587.2 million to 404.7 million, as a natural process of the money being obligated and then spent. But offsetting that negative, to explain why the overall cash position was still positive, was an increase in general fund balance, which is largely driven by the positive general fund revenue variances that I discussed earlier. And that is, this is traditionally, these couple of months are high months as we collect income tax revenue, and then you'll see a natural decline as we pay refunds in the next couple of months. So general fund being high at this point of the year is a natural part of the cycle. And then in addition, we had an additional 65.5 million in new federal emergency rental assistance funds. That's part of a 200 million that Maine is expected to get, and that those rental assistance funds were passed in the consolidated appropriations bill, that stimulus bill the feds passed at the end of December 27th. So that additional money is right now deposited in the cash pool and is serving to prop up or increase the cash pool while the CRF monies were going down. And then the last piece, the average highway fund balance in January was 45.2 million, which is an increase from December's average of 26.7 million. And December is a low point in the highway fund. So at this point, we start to build back the balances in the highway fund. So nothing surprising there, just the new items we mentioned. And then most of that driven by the flow of revenue for this particular time of year. So that is it in a nutshell. If anybody has any questions, or
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. Are there any questions from Legislative Council for Mr. Nolan? Seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Nolan, for your report. Appreciate it.
thank you.
Report from council committees. There are none. I think I'm going to take new business up first instead of taking old business first, given we have a number of members who are joining us for council today, and I want to make sure we can take up their after deadline bill submissions and get them moving along. If that's okay with everyone, any objections to that? Seeing none. So the first item of new business is begins on page 20 of our our packet, and that's consideration of after deadline bill requests. I think the first item here is a department bill. Is that right, Ms. Gresser?
That's correct. The first item is a department bill, and I think Mr. Charbonneau is here, the reviser. But yes, the first item is a department bill, and I believe that the Department of Professional and Financial Regulation has someone available to answer questions. Penny Valancourt is the Executive Director of the Board of Dental Examiners.
Yes. So this is LR 1994, an act to modify licensure requirements to consider credentialed individuals from other jurisdictions. Representative Stekis and I are very familiar with these topics. Ms. Valancourt, if you'd like to join us, we will welcome an explanation of what this bill is.
Oh, good afternoon, and thank you so very much. Again, Speaker Fecteau, Senator Jackson, and members of Legislative Council. My name is Penny Valancourt, and I serve as the Board of Dental Practices Executive Director. And I appreciate the opportunity to provide you with some information as you consider the board's request for an after deadline bill, department bill. I'm going to provide a very brief overview of the proposal, but I will also do my best to answer any questions that you may have. As you may know, the board's statutory mandate is to protect the public from incompetent and unprofessional practice of individuals who are licensed as dental professionals, such as dentists, dental hygienists, denturists, dental radiographers, and expanded function dental assistants. The board accomplishes that directive in part by issuing licenses to individuals who meet the minimum competency requirements for licensure, such as education, examination, and training. Simply put, there are existing licensure provisions in the Maine Dental Practice Act that are preventing the board from issuing licenses to otherwise qualified individuals. Those two statutory barriers are those requiring an educational degree that identifies specific U.S. accreditation standards, and licensure by endorsement provisions, which limit the board's ability to consider other jurisdictions such as foreign countries. Right now, the board is limited only to states and Canadian provinces. Over the past few years, the board has been successful in streamlining its statutory provisions to improve efficiencies and to reduce barriers to licensure. This proposal, quite frankly, is one of the final steps the board identifies as needed to complete their efforts. As concerns the timing of this proposal and why the need for immediate legislative consideration, please note that board staff is currently working with approximately 8 individuals who could be issued a license today if these changes were enacted. I'm in personal contact with individuals who have selected the state of Maine to reside, work, and raise their families, but are facing undue hardships because they are either underemployed, cannot gain employment, or ineligible to submit claims for third-party reimbursements. I've had the pleasure of speaking with a dental hygienist in Auburn who is trained and licensed in Jamaica. I've had the pleasure of speaking with an oral surgeon in Bangor who is trained and licensed as both a medical doctor and a dentist in the UK. Ironically, he received a medical license from Maine, but can't seem to qualify for a dental license. I would be happy to go over in more detail each of those statutory changes that the board voted out. But I believe the summary, which can be provided either now or later, best captures the intent of the legislation. And honestly, that is to simply authorize the board to grant licensure on a case-by-case basis to individuals who are otherwise qualified and who are licensed in good standing in other jurisdictions. The fiscal impact of this proposal is limited to costs associated with state agency rulemaking, which would be absorbed by the board. In closing, I would note that this proposal not only helps the board achieve its longstanding goal of removing barriers to licensure, that it would address hardships facing prospective employees, employers, dental programs, dental hygiene programs, and their ability to recruit and retain qualified dental health professionals to provide the much needed oral health care education and services statewide. Again, thank you for your time today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Valancourt. Really appreciate your time and your explanation of what the bill does. Are there any questions for Ms. Valancourt from the council? Representative Steckes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This isn't necessarily a public hearing on the bill, but I have a question. Would veterans with those credentials, they may not be licensed in another state, but they have the education and the experience to do the job, are you considering them?
Absolutely. This would allow the board to rely on a third-party recognized entity to do transcript evaluations. That's the key here, is the educational equivalency. This would allow the board to use a credible source, which we have in place right now. But this would indeed allow someone who's not licensed, but to consider their education and training.
Any other questions from council? Senator Jackson, President Jackson.
I don't have a question, but I would move it in.
Thank you, President Jackson. President Jackson moves it in. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Representative Dunphy. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Ms. Gresser, could you please call the roll?
Senator Pouliot,
Yes.
Senator Timberlake,
Yes.
Senator Daughtry,
Yes.
Senator Vitelli,
Yes.
Representative Stetkes,
Yes.
Representative Dillingham,
Yes.
Representative Talbot Ross,
Yes.
Representative Dunphy, Mr. President.
Representative Dunphy, you're on mute.
Pardon me. Yes.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, it's unanimous.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next up, we have Senator Baldacci, LR 2003, an act to support Maine students who are dependents of current or former members of the military. Senator Baldacci with us, yes.
Thanks. I'm in my car parked, so because I'm on my way to Augusta. But thank you for allowing me to present this. I just want to let and I appreciate your time. The Department of Defense has a regional liaison for New England and the Northeast, and that person that was traditionally there had not resigned, but retired last year. And the new person didn't come on until the end of December. And it was only after that that he contacted several state senators and legislators about issues concerning primarily the National Guard. As many people probably know, Bangor is the home of half of the Maine Air National Guard, as well as Army National Guard units. So about 3,000 people that would be affected in the Bangor area. And these were issues that were raised by service members to make, their family situation and the needs to relocate or to be transferred out of state easier for their families, primarily for enrollment in education, and also for tuition. If the service member has been transferred overseas, but their child is still in Maine getting education, they need to be continued as a Maine resident. And if they're being transferred to Maine, that their dependent can essentially register before arriving here, which saves the family a lot of trouble. It also establishes a Purple Star school system, which apparently the Department of Defense has promoted in other states, that would set up certain standards for schools that wish to, it's completely voluntary, to promote military service and civic responsibility. And it also allows some virtual schooling while service members or the dependents are in transition between assignments. I appreciate everybody's time and attention, and I just asked to be allowed to have this bill submitted to an appropriate committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Baldacci. Any questions from the council for for Senator Baldacci? Seeing none, President Jackson.
Yeah, I'd move it in, but I'd also ask either Mr. Charbonneau or Ms. Drescher. We got a number of these, it says ballots in process. I mean, do we know, do we need to take these up, or have they already up the required votes? I'm just curious. But I definitely would move this in if it doesn't have the required votes.
So President Jackson, you're correct. There are several that are have ballots in process. For example, the next one, Representative Gramlich, is not able to be at the meeting, so she is not able to speak to her bill. The ballots that we have received are not complete. We haven't finished. Not everyone has voted, so it's up to the council whether they wish to take up the bill and vote here, which might be efficient. As opposed to waiting for the ballots to finish circulating.
Just as a point of clarification, Ms. Gresser, have these ballots in process, have any of them reached 6 votes?
I believe that Senator Stewart's bill that's in process has reached 6 votes. It has not completed yet.
Okay.
The other 2, as of the printing of this agenda, had not reached the 6 votes.
Okay. My understanding from in the past, when a ballot reaches 6, it's considered passed, obviously.
Actually, when a ballot reaches 6, what we do is we generally give a heads up to the revisor's office so that they can start drafting it.
Okay.
But it is not final. We do wait for everyone to vote until, a certain period of time.
Okay. Okay. So has that been done for Senator Stewart's bill? Has the revisor been informed that they can get started?
I believe the revisor is nodding, so the revisor has been informed.
Thanks, Mr. Charbonneau. Great. So it sounds like this one has not reached 6 and certainly has not been has not received an entire weigh-in from all the members of council. So I would look for a vote. Is there a motion? Senator Jackson moving it in. Yeah.
Second.
Senator Jackson moves it in. Representative Talbot Ross seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Gresser, please call the roll.
Senator Pouliot,
Yes.
Senator Timberlake,
Yes.
Senator Daughtry,
Yes.
Senator Vitelli,
Yes.
Representative Stetkis,
Yes.
Representative Dillingham,
Yes.
Representative Talbot Ross,
Yes.
Representative Dunphy,
Yes.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
motion passes.
Motion passes unanimous. Thank you, Senator Baldacci, for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Up next, we have LR 2001, an act to increase safety at the Capitol complex. As mentioned, this was Representative Gramlich's bill. I know she cannot be here. I do have an explanation of the bill, and I feel like we did this last time we convened. I think it's appropriate to not waste time from my perspective. And so my understanding is this bill would require that security at the Cross building mirror the security that exists at the State House. That's generally my understanding of the bill based on what Representative Gramlich told me. And I would look for a motion. Senator Jackson. Moving it in. Question?
Yes, I would move it in. I know Senator Libby, Personnel Committee looked at this a lot last session, so definitely think this is worthy of a further discussion. I move it in.
I'll second. Second.
President Jackson moves it in. Representative Dunphy seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Ms. Gresser, please call the roll.
Senator Pouliot,
Yes.
Senator Timberlake,
No.
Senator Daughtry,
Yes.
Senator Vitelli,
Yes.
Representative Stetkis,
Yay.
Representative Dillingham,
Yes.
Representative Talbot Ross,
Yes.
Representative Dunphy,
Yes.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, the motion passes
8-2.
8-2.
Thank you. Motion prevails. LR 1998, Senator Pouliot, an act to amend the motor vehicle excise tax exemption for veterans who are disabled. Senator Pouliot.
Sure, pretty straightforward. It would allow veterans who are disabled to be exempt from the motor vehicle tax. It was a constituent request, came in after the deadline. I told them I would put it forward. I'm happy to oblige to the will of the Legislative Council as to whether or not that can go forward.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions for Senator Pouliot? Seeing none, is there a motion? Senator Jackson, moving it in? President Jackson? Yep.
Yes.
President Jackson moves it in. Is there a second?
Somebody else can raise their hand.
Second.
Seconded by Senator Daughtry. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Ms. Gresser, please call the roll.
Senator Pouliot,
Yes.
Senator Timberlake,
Yes.
Senator Daughtry,
Yes.
Senator Vitelli,
Yes.
Representative Stetkis,
Is that yes? Yes, Representative Stekis? Oh, your audio is not working. Thumbs up for yes?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Representative Dillingham,
Yes.
Representative Talbot Ross,
Yes.
Representative Dunphy,
Yes.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Motion carries. It's unanimous.
Thank you. And LR 2005, an act to terminate the Augusta Downtown Parking District. Senator Pouliot.
Yes, so in Augusta, we have a parking district that was created by an act of the legislature at some point historically, and the city would like to have that disbanded so that they can take over just running the parking situation in Augusta on their own. This was put forward by the city manager, had requested me to put this in, but it was after deadline. It's just kind of a housekeeping thing for the city of Augusta, and hopefully we can move it forward.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any questions? Do they control any State House related parking?
No, it's just really in the downtown area more or less, and then up to State Street, but only like where the courthouse is in that area.
Okay. Any other questions? Is there a motion? Senator Vitelli.
I move it in.
Senator Vitelli moves it in. Is there a second? Seconded by President Jackson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Gresser, please call the roll.
Senator Pouliot,
Yes.
Senator Timberlake,
Yes.
Senator Daughtry,
Yes.
Senator Vitelli,
Yes.
Representative Stetkis,
Yes.
Representative Dillingham,
Yes.
Representative Talbot Ross,
Yes.
Representative Dunphy,
Yes.
Mr. President,
Yes, if Senator Pouliot can make it retroactive.
Mr. Speaker,
Do you have like some parking tickets you need to get rid of or something?
I vote in the affirmative as well.
Mr. Speaker, you have unanimous. It's 10. The motion carries.
The motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Gresser. Next item is LR 2007, an act to prohibit substitute teachers from engaging in sexual activity with their students. Senator Stewart, is he with us? Senator Timberlake, do you anticipate Senator Stewart being with us this afternoon?
How about if I said I really didn't know?
We can,
for an honest answer. He didn't tell me he wasn't going to be. Let's put it that way.
okay.
We will contact him and see if we can't get.
Okay, I'll move this to the end of the items.
Thank you.
Okay. He has two bills in a row here, so we'll skip and we'll come back.
If I may, Mr. Speaker, I'm
Yes.
sorry. I was informed by his aide that he would be on the road traveling so that he could get here for the confirmation session.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Chobano. Is there any members know what these bills do? Senator Jackson, President Jackson?
Well, I mean, since we already heard, I believe Senator Stewart's second one is that the required votes, and I'm sorry, but this title seems to be self-explanatory. I could move it in right now. I don't
Okay.
need-
I would welcome that motion.
I move it in.
President Jackson moves it in. Is there a second? Second by Representative Talbot Ross. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. Ms. Gresser, please call the roll.
Senator Pouliot,
Yes.
Senator Timberlake,
Yes.
Senator Daughtry,
Yes.
Senator Vitelli,
Yes.
Representative Stetkis,
Yes.
Representative Dillingham,
Yes.
Representative Talbot Ross,
Yes.
Representative Dunphy,
Yes.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
It's unanimous, motion carries.
Unanimous. Thank you. And this is the second item was the one that had already received the 6 votes.
Yes.
Okay, great. This is LR 2008, an act to allow the production of insulin by the University of Maine. Do I have a motion? Senator Timberlake moves it in, seconded by Representative Dillingham. Thank you. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none. Ms. Gresser, please call the roll.
Senator Pouliot,
Yes.
Senator Timberlake,
Yes.
Senator Daughtry,
Yes.
Senator Vitelli,
Yes.
Representative Stetkis,
Yes.
Representative Dillingham,
Yes.
Representative Talbot Ross,
Yes.
Representative Dunphy,
Yes.
Mr. President,
Yes.
and Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
It's unanimous, the motion carries.
Thank you. Next item is LR 1993, an act to restore funding to the Southern Maine Veterans Cemetery. I understand that Representative Tuttle cannot be with us today, but he did provide information to Representative Dunphy, so I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Tuttle did some regrets. He couldn't be here today. He was a bit under the weather. And the LR 1993 was to restore funding to maintain a veteran cemetery in Southern Maine. It would go before appropriations. He was hoping to gain our support for that.
Thank you, Representative Dunphy. Are there any questions for Representative Dunphy in proxy for Representative Tuttle? Seeing none, is there a motion? Don't all jump at once. Senator Vitelli.
I move it in.
Senator Vitelli moves it in. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Senator Daughtry. I knew I was going to make that mistake.
All good.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. Ms. Gresser, please call the roll.
Senator Pouliot,
Yes.
Senator Timberlake,
Yes.
Senator Daughtry,
Yes.
Senator Vitelli,
Yes.
Representative Stetkis,
Yes.
Representative Dillingham,
Yes.
Representative Talbot Ross,
Yes.
Representative Dunphy,
Yes.
Mr. President,
Yes.
and Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
It's unanimous, the motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. LR 2004, an act to exempt municipalities from sales tax on municipal solid waste. Also from Representative Tuttle. Representative Dunphy, do you want to speak to this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a situation that is particular to Sanford only. The City Council asked Representative Tuttle to put this in. They have the only tax on municipal solid waste in the state, and they would like to have that vetted and looked at.
Thank you, Representative Dunphy.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion from the council? Any questions for Representative Dunphy? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move it in.
Representative Talbot Ross moves it in. Is there a second? I think I heard a second, but I may have missed who that was.
Second.
Senator Vitelli. Senator Vitelli seconds the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Ms. Gresser, please call the roll.
Senator Pouliot,
Yes. Yes.
Senator Timberlake,
Yes.
Senator Daughtry,
Yes.
Senator Vitelli,
Yes.
Representative Stetkis,
Yes.
Representative Dillingham,
Yes.
Representative Talbot Ross,
Yes.
Representative Dunphy,
Yes.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, it's unanimous. Motion carries.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next item is LR 2006 from Representative White, Dustin White, an act to require that motor vehicles be clear of snow and ice when operated on public ways. And I think Representative White is with us. Turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and President Jackson, distinguished members of the Legislative Council. I'm State Representative Dustin White. I represent 10 towns in Central Aroostook County, currently living in Mars Hill. I'll be brief. This isn't a new concept. I think all of us here have seen this bill in one form or the other over our tenure in the legislature. This was brought forward to me by a couple police officers and a constituent of mine who had a recent accident on the interstate that could have gone a lot worse. When she was speaking with the officer, asked that, why isn't this illegal? The officer told her, well, it kind of is, it kind of isn't. It really depends on the district attorney if they feel like prosecuting it or not. The statute isn't quite clear. Like I said, we've taken this up a handful of times. I'd like to continue the conversation before the body. If nothing else, it's a good way to provide some public education on this issue. Being familiar with legislative council rules, it needs to constitute an emergency. I believe as an issue of public safety, it meets that threshold. And if you guys have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Representative White. Are there any questions from the council for Representative White? Seeing no questions. Any discussion amongst council? Seeing none, is there a motion? Representative Dillingham.
I make a motion, we move it in.
Thank you, Representative Dillingham. Representative Dillingham moves it in. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Representative Dunphy. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Ms. Gresser, please call the roll.
Senator Pouliot,
Yes.
Senator Timberlake,
Yeah.
Senator Daughtry,
Yes.
Senator Vitelli,
Yes.
Representative Stetkes,
Yay.
Representative Dillingham,
Yes.
Representative Talbot Ross,
Yes.
Representative Dunphy,
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
unanimous, motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. Although Senator Timberlake was not very emphatic with his yes, Representative White, I'll just make that note.
Hey, it's a vote's a vote. I'm counting it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for your time. Appreciate it. Next item is LR 2010. Representative Paige Ziegler, an act to increase the number of Lincolnville Sewer District trustees from 3 to 5. Representative Ziegler, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. Good afternoon. Are we going by the alphabet again? Because
Yes, yeah, I know. It's never good when you have that Z there. Sorry about that.
Good afternoon, President Jackson, Speaker Fecteau, and esteemed members of the Legislative Council. My name is Stanley Page Ziegler Jr., and I represent House District 96, which includes the towns of Belmont, Liberty, Lincolnville, Montville, Morrow, Palermo, and Searsmont. I'm here to ask for your approval of an after deadline request. Early this winter, but after cloture had passed, I was contacted by trustees of the Lincolnville Sewer District. They were seeking guidance on how to increase their board membership from 3 trustees to 5. Well, in researching the matter, I found that the legislature created the Lincolnville Sewer District in 2010 through a special and private law. Therefore, it requires legislative approval to increase the number of trustees. The folks I spoke with explained that increasing the number of trustees will make it possible to better share the workload and responsibility to the district. This is a straightforward request, and I ask the council to allow the legislature to take this up. Thank you for your time and consideration today. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Representative Ziegler. Are there any questions from council for the representative? Seeing none. Is there a motion?
I move it in.
Senator Daughtry moves it in, seconded by Senator Pouliot. Any further discussion from council? Seeing none. Ms. Gresser, please call the roll.
Senator Pouliot,
Yes.
Senator Timberlake,
Yep.
Senator Daughtry,
Yes.
Senator Vitelli,
Yes.
Representative Stetkes,
Yes.
Representative Dillingham,
Yes.
Representative Talbot Ross,
Yes.
Representative Dunphy,
Yes.
Mr. President. I think, Mr.
Absent.
President, yeah. And Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
it's 9 in favor, the motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. At the last legislative council meeting, we tabled a few joint resolution proposals. First one is LR 500. Is Representative Falkingham with us? This is a joint resolution memorializing the United States Congress to urge the Congress to adopt the Keep 9 Amendment. Representative Dillingham or Representative Stetkes, do we have an explanation of this that you want to bring forward?
I do not. I don't know if Representative Stetkes can speak to it.
I do not, sorry.
Okay. I think we won't take it off the table then. And then LR 513, Senator Garin. Joint resolution urging the President of the United States to designate a state funeral for the last living World War II Medal of Honor recipients. Senator Timberlake or Senator Pouliot, do you have some information for us so we can take this up?
I don't have, and I didn't talk to Senator Guerin about it. I didn't know.
Okay. Senator Pouliot.
No, but it sounds like a good idea. Maybe we should just move it forward.
Okay. I mean, this one sounds pretty self-explanatory. It seems like it's honoring the last, it seems like it's in the title. Okay. I would entertain a motion on this one.
I make a motion that we move it forward.
Thank you, Senator
Second.
Timberlake. Seconded by Representative Dillingham. Any further discussion on LR 513? Seeing none. Ms. Gresser, please call the roll.
Senator Pouliot,
Yes.
Senator Timberlake,
Yes.
Senator Daughtry,
Yes.
Senator Vitelli,
Yes.
Representative Stetkes,
Yes.
Representative Dillingham,
Yes.
Representative Talbot Ross,
Yes.
Representative Dunphy,
Yes.
Mr. President,
Yes.
and Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
It's unanimous. Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is LR 1586. Joint resolution urging the restoration of constitutionalism in the 10th Amendment. Senator Keim. I thought I had seen her on here, but I guess she's not. Senator Timberlake or Senator Pouliot, do you want to speak to this?
Senator Keim was just here, and she mentioned that they're working on some tribal stuff in committee. So she's not able to hop on.
Okay.
So I guess we could either leave it on the table or move it forward. But I don't really, know the details of the language of it. So perhaps it's best to leave it on the table for now.
Yeah, I don't know what this is. She could also ask, in both instances, these could be asked for ballots, but if they send over an explanation of what they are, that could be helpful too. Instead of waiting for the next Ledge Council meeting, if they want to ballot these, they could ask for that. So
we'll let them know.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, we have LR 2014 from President Jackson, an act to waive the asset look-back standards for nursing home residency as a result of contracting COVID-19. President Jackson.
Thank you. The reason why the bill is late, actually just had a constituent reach out to me yesterday about it. Talked about how his father was in really great health, but then contracted COVID and came through it, but then had seemed to come up with long-term side effects of the COVID and had to be placed in a nursing home. Had no time to really plan or anything. He was healthy. I know this happens a lot to elderly people, but it certainly seems unfortunate because the COVID virus. Somebody's going to lose their home because they had to go in the nursing home. So I thought with a lot of the considerations about people that got help that was very warranted, small business workers, things like that, it may be worth with the idea that we may get more federal funding, at least looking at the possibility of anyone that was legitimately put in a nursing home because of COVID, maybe, not doing the asset test or some other means. So I thought it was worthy of at least a consideration. That's why I put the bill in.
Any questions for President Jackson? And I do see that Senator Keim is with us, so we will circle back to the resolution after this. Any discussion or any questions for President Jackson? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move it in.
Senator Vitelli
I'll
moves it in, seconded by Representative Dunphy. Any further discussion from council? Seeing none. Ms. Gresser, please call the roll.
Senator Pouliot,
Yes.
Senator Timberlake,
Yes.
Senator Daughtry,
Yes.
Senator Vitelli,
Yes.
Representative Stetkes,
Yes.
Representative Dillingham,
Yes.
Representative Talbot Ross,
Yes.
Representative Dunphy,
Yes.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
It's unanimous, motion carries.
Awesome. Thank you. And then I see Senator Keim is with us. So I'm going to go back to the previous item. LR 1586, joint resolution urging the restoration of constitutionalism in the 10th Amendment. Senator Keim, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry I wasn't here. I was madly trying to get off one Zoom and onto another. I wanted to put forward this joint resolution really just as a way to assert states' rights and as a reminder that that's our form of government, is that we reserve the rights to ourselves. And that's, in a nutshell, basically the purpose of this. So it doesn't have really any legal standing, but it is a way of us asserting our position as states.
You, any questions from council for Senator Keim? Seeing no questions, is there a motion?
I make a motion, we move it in.
Senator Timberlake moves it in. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Senator Pouliot. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Gresser, please call the roll.
Senator Pouliot,
Yes.
Senator Timberlake,
Yes.
Senator Daughtry,
Yes.
Senator Vitelli,
Yes.
Representative Stetkes,
Okay.
Representative Dillingham,
Yes.
Representative Talbot Ross,
Yes.
Representative Dunphy,
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
It's unanimous, Mr. Speaker.
Motion carries. Thank you, Senator Keim. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think Representative Dillingham had a question regarding LR 500, which we had also skipped over. I'll just bring that back to the forefront here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In speaking with Representative Falkingham through text messaging, he's questioning why his bill was submitted as an after deadline bill. He has a print off, and he sent me a picture of his draft request by sponsor printed off, and it's dated 12/9. And it does have LR 500 listed on there, and it actually shows it's in process on 12/9. So I'm going to look to the reviser who has his hand up already.
Thank you.
Mr. Charbonneau, thank you.
Thank you. It's not an after deadline, it's a joint resolution memorializing somebody to do something, which requires the approval of the Legislative Council. Doesn't matter when it was submitted.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and give him that information.
Great. Thank you. Okay. I think that concludes the consideration of after deadline bill requests. The second item under new business is acceptance of the Loring Development Authority of Maine 2020 annual report. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Senator Pouliot. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Talbot Ross. Thank you. Any discussion concerning the report? The only discussion I would have is that it seems strange that this report comes to Legislative Council, but I feel like I remember this being before LCRED during that iteration and perhaps before IDEO as well, but
So the Title V, Section 13080L requires the authority to submit to the governor and to the Legislative Council their report every year. So every year you get to accept this.
Okay, great. Duly noted. Awesome. Well, if there's not any further discussion, Ms. Gresser, please call the roll.
Senator Pouliot,
Yes.
Senator Timberlake,
Yes.
Senator Daughtry,
Yes.
Senator Vitelli,
Yes.
Representative Stetkis,
Okay,
Representative Dillingham,
Yes.
Representative Talbot Ross,
Yes.
Representative Dunphy,
Yes.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Motion carries. I do like that Ms. Gresser was clearly prepared to answer the question as to why it came before the council. You know us too well at this point.
I wondered myself.
Appreciate that. Thank you. And so we're going to move back to old business, which we moved at the top of the meeting today in order to take up those after deadline bills. The first item on old business is item number 1, found on page 15 of our packets, council actions taken by ballot. I believe this is just informational, so it's for our review of items that we acted on during our last meeting. Are there any questions regarding that item? Seeing none. Item number 2, page 16 of the packet, proposed amendment to the Legislative Council COVID-19 prevention policy. This is limited access to legislative space by authorized guests. We had tabled this on 1/28/21, and it's back here for further discussion and action. Is there someone who wants to kick this conversation off? Senator Timberlake.
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. And you guys all know how I feel about this. I've been pretty straightforward with it from day one. And Mr. Speaker, as we had a conversation last time during Ledge Council, there was kind of put out that probably within a couple of weeks we could do a ballot. Never got around to it for whatever reason. So I would really hope today, with the numbers that have gone down and what's been happening around and what I'm hearing from my members, that we can find a way to pass this today. It looks pretty like it's doesn't create any problems. It looks like a good policy to me. So I would make a motion that we move this in and pass it.
Senator Timberlake has moved this for passage. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Senator Pouliot. And is there any further discussion? Well, so I would be supportive of this. I have a few changes that I would like to see. If you're, I have them written down here, so let me pull them up. So the first one, just as a point of clarification, Ms. Gresser, the proposal seems to suggest that each member could have 2 guests in the building at any given time. Am I reading that? Is that an incorrect reading? And if so, what is it actually trying to say?
So in theory, it could be 2 members per member, 2 guests per member.
Yep.
But the responsibility is placed on the chiefs of staff to sort of be the gatekeepers, because the limits imposed by the Legislative Council's COVID policy and the physical distancing by default limit the number of people that could be in a room. As I understand it, page 16, the area in which the guests would be admitted is rooms that are under the caucus's control. So by definition, that limits it. So although theoretically, yes, anyone could, in in reality, no, it would be limited by the physical distancing requirements that would be imposed by the policy that the council has already adopted.
Okay, so with that in mind, I think I would be more comfortable just being a lot more clear and not having this like possibility of, you know, hundreds of guests at one time because 50 members invited guests. So if we could land on a place of X number of guests at any one time. So, you know, you might have 8 guests in the building over the course of the day, but you know, at any given time, the number of guests in a partisan office would be X number, if that makes sense. So, you know, if Representative so-and-so and Representative so-and-so both have guests, they would be able to go to the partisan office, but, you know, and if one of those guests leave, then the next guest comes in, whatever the case may be. But I just want to be a little bit more thoughtful about that number rather than just have this like possibility, even though I understand your argument, which is like, you know, the provisions that are in place in the building, clearly you couldn't have that many people, but I don't see why we would even open up that possibility. I see a couple of hands raised, Representative Dillingham and then Senator Timberlake.
Thank you. Yes, I believe our intent behind that would be that so any member could have a guest in the building, but it is limited by the available space for their time. And so in our office, I mean, we have 4 areas where they could have a closed meeting without anyone there. So that would really only limit it. It's at your number of 8, because if it's 2 per member, only 4 members, say from if they're meeting, they schedule meetings at 10 a.m. to 11, there's only going to be 4 members that are going to be able to have guests in that time slot. So I think you and I are saying the same thing. We just need the document to say the same thing. So however that can be written out clearly, so the intent is clear. I'm fine with that.
Okay. And Senator Timberlake?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I thought the document said that on page 16 on 1-A, and when you get to A, when it says in order to authorize the available space under the caucus's control, when that would, you know, I would think that somebody could meet in my office and that'd be somebody and 2 people, and in Matt's office, somebody and 2 people, or maybe up in our caucus, in our room upstairs, that somebody could meet with 2 people, but it would only be spaces. So in almost in our space, it almost gets us to almost only 6 at any one time in the building. But I thought that was wrote out fairly well on page 16. So I guess, Mr. Speaker, I didn't understand that, and I'm all in favor of having that discussion and see if we can fix that. But
okay.
I thought it spelled it out pretty decent.
Senator Vitelli.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I'm just trying to get my head around what's the maximum number, given the space constraints, that guests could be in the building at any one time. Does anybody have that calculation? Like if each of the 4 offices are limited to 8 people, 8 times 4, that's the maximum number of guests that would be allowed in at a time? Is that, I'm just trying to get my head around what the number would be. Because there could be a rotation of lots of people through the building over a period of time if the maximum were to happen, which it could, I suppose. I'm not that fast with math, so I'm asking if somebody else can get me a number.
Yeah, it sounds like Representative Dillingham said at any given time their office could accommodate 4 or 6. It sounded like Senator Timberlake said 6. I haven't thought about the space that we have on the House side, but probably between the offices 6. Senator Jackson, I'm not sure what you were thinking.
I just think it would be helpful if we had that number, if we knew what the maximum capacity was, so that whoever's got to make the decisions about whether a guest can come in or not at any given time would know whether they're bumping up against that maximum. Otherwise, I don't have a particular problem. I just think we need to be clear about that.
Agreed. Ms. Gresser.
Whether or not there are other members in the rooms that are there for something else, or whether or not there's staff in the rooms for other reasons, would affect the total, which is why there wasn't a total put in, because it would, for example, if there was a staff member, then that would reduce by 1 the total number of guests that could be allowed in. And so maybe thinking about what is the maximum number of people in the room rather than the maximum number of guests, because
yeah, that would be helpful too.
Have there been measurements of the partisan offices like there were of the committee rooms?
no, and not yet, but we certainly could.
Okay. I mean, can we just change this language to say based on the capacity determined by, I'm not sure who made the determination on the committee rooms, but whomever that was, that would be the capacity for the offices. So that would be any combination of guests and staff. Representative Dillingham.
I'm concerned if we get into measuring the partisan offices about number and capacity, and you take into account our staff, you may run into issues with the number of staff that actually can be, even though that they're in their cubicles and they're separated, you're going to run into those issues. And then when you add myself and Representative Steckes to our office, when we go into our office, and then any of our members that might be going in the office, because if you're going to limit a guest to a office that we can close off within our partisan office, and you're going to take in the totality of the office space, then you would think you would have to limit legislators in that same space as well. So, certainly I know in our office, we have many legislators that are coming into the building and they go into the office and they go upstairs to see the aide. That's an area we're not talking about using, but they are still in that general partisan space. So I'm not sure if measuring partisan offices is the best way to go about trying to target how many you can have. I know I think looking to be able to use a space and make sure you're socially distanced and you're wearing masks. Just generally looking at that space, I think would suffice rather than getting into measurements. My concern is you're going to cause an issue where legislators actually can't then be in that space themselves.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I wasn't paying attention to when the hands went up, so I'm just going to go in the order that they appear on my screen. Representative Steckes.
Thank you. It was actually Senator Daughtry that was before me, but I'll take the opportunity. So just to clarify, we're not looking to be less restrictive than what the executive order says for all of us and our constituents when we visit a restaurant or a grocery store or any of those other things in our everyday life. We're just, in fact, we might even be a little bit more restrictive. We're not looking at a higher risk than what everybody else is dealing with in their everyday life now, are we?
That's not the goal. That's not the goal. And so I think to the point that Representative Dillingham made is, trying to make sure that we are assessing what the flow of traffic is already in the offices and, adding guests to that number versus taking a number that might actually be different than what the current traffic is what I understood. Is we're not trying to be, I don't think this policy is intended to be more restrictive to the point where it's actually limiting the staff that are already in the office, for example. So
Right, but we're currently more restrictive, and of course, you know, we're getting questions from our constituents on a daily basis of, you know, I'm going to the restaurant, I'm going to this place, I'm going to that place. You know, why can't we go to, you know, meet with our representative in their office, that sort of thing. So
Duly noted. Senator Timberlake.
Thank you. You know, I think what I was getting at when you get there, and I think that's why they put into it, they put it with in the hands of the chief of staffs in each one of the offices. I mean, we got to put some faith in our staff that they're going to do the right thing and not going to create an unsafe space. And I truly believe that that all of our chiefs of staffs are fully qualified to determine that you know, there's 3 people can fit in my office, so there'd be me and maybe 2 other people. And if I schedule a time with her, that she's going to make sure that other senators are not coming in trying to use my office at the same time. And I think that's why we set this policy up this way, is to create a way that every office was monitored through their own people. I'm not calling up down to your chief of staff and saying, okay, I want to bring 2 people in, and she's not trying to keep track of what my office. And I think we got faith in our chiefs of staff. I think all of them are good people, and they have the ability to handle this. And I think this is the safest and fairest way to move this process forward, because I really do believe we have to move this process forward and start allowing this to happen. So thank you.
Senator Pouliot. Sorry, Senator Daughtry, you just happened to be last on my screen. It sounds like you may have been first to raise your hand. I apologize.
Well, thank you. I'll let Senator Daughtry go first.
Are you sure? I just wanted to chime in and say that I think it could be potentially helpful to have the measurements on the partisan offices, not as, you know, an enforcement mechanism, but just for all of us to know for our own, you know, mental processes. I mean, we know what can be in each committee room. It's a really useful tool. And I just want to remind folks, as someone who has the square foot measurement of my tasting room memorized and having to keep in mind how many individuals can enter. They can't even, you know, drink in there. This is just to pick up items. You know, this is what the rest of the state is having to deal with at any time, having to look at the space, measure it, see what fits under different, you know, regulations and restrictions. So I think it's more of a tool for our incredible chiefs of staff to just know off the top of their head, you know, okay, this room is X amount of feet. We can only have 3 people in here at any one time. Awesome. Great. We have 1 legislator and 2 guests. Boom, ready to go. So I would see sort of the measurement actually as something that would help us all and give us a better idea of what we're dealing with.
Thank you, Senator Daughtry. Senator Pouliot.
Yeah, I feel like that probably is an easier way to handle this if we just say, you know, people can come here, but in the rooms, like the max occupancy for the building total is X, and that goes outside the building door, and whoever is the doorkeeper is monitoring how many people are in the building total. And then at each room, it has a sign out of it that says X number of people are allowed in this room. I think beyond that, it's just going to be a logistical nightmare to try to figure out how. And then I just, you know, that's how we do it with restaurants. You know, the fire marshal gives a max capacity, and that's what's on there. I mean, we could all kind of argue that how much that might get enforced or whatever. I don't have any idea, but I think that might be the easiest metric to go by.
Okay, so I think it makes sense to get a sense of what the spaces can handle, and then not put necessarily a number on the guests, but put a number on the space, and we'll just you know, leave it up to the individual offices to manage the flow of traffic between in and out of the office, in and out of these offices, if that makes sense. That would be my perspective. So, you know, if you have X number of folks that can fit in a room, and you already have 4 legislators, and there's only space for 1 more, then it's 1 guest at that particular time. If it's, you know, 1 legislator in a room and there's room for 4 more, then it's, you can have 4 guests. But I think it just needs to be managed in a way that relies on what the space can handle and what it can't handle. That would be my perspective.
Mr. Speaker,
Yeah, Senator Pouliot.
would now be a good time to ask to have a bigger office so I can have more people? When an office like yours, we can have tons of people.
Yes, that's a good point. Senator Jackson, President Jackson, sorry.
Thank you. Well, I've had a long time here that haven't had an awful lot of constituents come down, so I haven't had a lot of requests for constituents to meet me here. Doing district though, but one of the things that, and I certainly would be willing to restrict the amount of guests in my office to same as Senator Timberlake and Senator Pouliot's. But one of the things I am concerned about is how do we know the people that are in? You know, is there going to be a requirement that they sign up? They agree to follow the policy of wearing masks while in the building and things like that. So if we are going to do something like this, at minimum, I would think that there'd have to be a place at security where people signed in, and that they were affirming that they were going to wear mask and go with the rules of the building as far as for everyone else. So that would be the thing that I'd like to see, make sure that again, people that work in this building are as protected as possible.
Okay. I mean, I think I would also want to see something like that where we have a log where folks are signing in and signing out, so we know when they're here, who they're visiting, and if for some reason, I mean, in an instance where God forbid someone does test positive after they've been in the building, that we have the ability to get in touch with them and we know where they were and who they came in contact with. I think that's obviously important. And I don't know if Ms. Gresser has perspective on where that would occur. I mean, it seems to make sense at security because they're going to have to come through there anyway to maintain a log of visitors.
Yeah, it would be possible to put the sign-in sheet and the affirmation that you will follow the rules, and even have copies of the COVID policy available for people to take with them so that they can read them, and then sign that they will abide by them. Also provide contact information in case we need to contact them. And all that could be done at security. I think this anticipates that when the guest comes to security and the legislator who has invited the guest, or the chief or an aide comes down to meet the guest at security to escort them up to the designated area under the caucus's control in which they're going to meet. So since the point of contact is going to be the kiosk, the security kiosk anyhow, that might be a good place to have the gathering of that information and the dissemination of the existing policy.
Great. Representative Dillingham.
Thank you. Yeah, so in the proposed policy change, it does actually have a piece in there that was added stating that the guest must wear protective face covering to actually even be a guest. Also has in there that they must go through the health screening. And I didn't see it in here, but I know, I think Ms. Gresser just referred to it, but I know that I suggested that indeed, whoever has the guest actually meets the guest at security to minimize any wandering through the building, so that they are met, signed in, and taken directly to whichever office that they're going to be having their meeting in. as well as I think we asked that the chiefs of staff also keep those logs if they're going to be the ones that are scheduling the meetings and making sure that the space is available, that they keep the log of who the visitor is, who's the legislator that had the visitor, and get the pertinent details to make sure that if there is a concern that those individuals can be contacted if there's an exposure in any of the offices.
Great. Any other comments? And the only other thing that I wanted to raise was making sure that this was to make clear that this is a policy as it relates to the State House complex and not a policy that relates to the Civic Center complex. I think I don't think it would be appropriate to have to be handling guests over at the Civic Center on session days. So I just want to make that clear. I don't know if we need to spell that out in this policy, Ms. Gresser, given that I guess I'm not sure to what extent. I mean, I presume whenever we adopt a policy, it does extend over to the Civic Center. So it might be worthwhile to add a line about the fact that in this instance, that's not the intent.
Yeah, I think that would make sense because it does start out discussing the State House and legislative space. And when the legislature is in the Augusta Civic Center, it is then considered legislative space. So if you want to keep it just the State House complex, then it should be clarified that that's what it applies to.
And then the only other thing I would like to see is a report back. I mean, an opportunity for this to be prompted again for review by Legislative Council so that we can check in to see how this policy is going. I guess my proposal would be instead of taking the time, instead of measuring, well, I think we should probably, I mean, this is my thought is we start out with 2 guests per caucus and we can come back and reevaluate if at a time. So that might not mean you have 2 guests over the course of the day. It might mean you have 6, but at any given time having 2. And then in the meantime, if we can get an evaluation, Ms. Gresser, of the spaces to find out what the capacity would be, that would be my proposal. And then we can, if the spaces would allow more than 2 guests, then we could always change it and/or just strip the number out entirely and just put in place what the capacity is for these offices in their entirety. But I think in the meantime, to get this thing rolling, having 2 guests per office at any given time would make the most sense to me in the immediate. That's my thought. Any thoughts? Representative Dillingham and then Representative Steckes.
Thank you. If it means that we can get some action on this and today and move that forward, then I think that is a very reasonable request and accommodation. And then we could go ahead and revisit this once the office spaces have been looked at. And at the same time, possibly even start our first report back of how is the process going.
Representative Steckes.
Thank you. Not to make things more difficult, but would it make sense to add something in there if the chief executive was to roll back some of the restrictions for the general public in other places, that could apply to our situation as well?
I would probably want to adjust the policy on our own and not adjust the policy based on the executive branch. President Jackson.
Yeah, I'm not gonna worry too much about personally, whatever the council wants to go with the amount of people and things like that. But I am curious, and Ms. Gresser, I mean, we were voting on this today. I don't see this starting tomorrow. I don't know, need 3-4 days to come up with forms or whatever. It would seem like a couple days anyways to put this together would be appropriate. The other thing I'm not sure is the sign-in sheet, if that remains at the security. I'm very supportive of the master sheet or whatever you want to call it be in control of the security or whatever, not the offices.
Yeah, based on my understanding is the log is maintained at security. If the offices want to maintain a list on their own, that's also the prerogative, but I think it is definitely important that the sign-in sheet occur where people are coming in and when they're leaving, and that's being maintained there. Representative Dillingham.
Thank you. I think that's fine as long as there's sensitivity to private information, contact information in the log to keep it down at security. And I'm just a question actually for President Jackson. If we go ahead and vote on and hopefully pass this today with a date effective of say March 8th, so that would give enough time for any of the outside paperwork to be done, would that be okay?
Honestly, as far as the date, I mean, I guess I would pass that to Ms. Drescher, to tell us when she thinks she could. I mean, her duties are massive as it is at this moment, and so if she said, Monday, I'd be fine with that. If she said the 8th, I'd be fine with that. I mean, I'm not trying to put a date on it. I just expect that there's a little bit of the logistics here that the executive director will have to go through. So.
Right.
I'm fine with whatever she comes up with.
What I think the first thing that we're going to want to do is I'm going to speak with Capitol Security to let them know, get the log sheet, figure out, but this is for the future. It looks to me like what you're thinking about is basically changing where it says subject to the requirements of this section, a legislator may authorize up to 2 guests. It looks like for now, what we're thinking about is saying subject to the requirements of this section, each legislative caucus may authorize up to 2 guests at one time. And that's the step 1 to see how that works. I think that once we get Capitol Security, have that discussion, I don't think it should take too terribly long to get this ready. So I am hopeful by the middle of next week, it would be possible.
So do you want to put an effective date? I mean, it sounds like March 8th is a safe place to land, or the end of next week. I don't mind. And then in the meantime, if we could also be sent the policy for review, and if there's any revisions that we might have that we're not, if there's anything that we intended but wasn't reflected in that could also be nice to have.
I will. I'll draft up the revisions and send it to all of you, and then you can make sure I got it right.
And if there are any changes, we could always ballot the changes. But
absolutely,
I think you captured the intent. I would be comfortable with March 8th. That seems like a safe way to approach this. It gives you a week to get it going. Representative Talbot Ross, and then Senator Timberlake.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only thing I would ask is that we put into the language, you said each legislative caucus, and I think we've got to give some attention to the unaffiliated members. So if we could make sure that there's a way for those representatives to have some participation in this if they so choose as well. I think we discussed that at some point, but anyway.
Yeah, and I think in this instance, I know there's a reference to chiefs. I think in that, and for the members who aren't affiliated with one of the 4 major caucuses, or the 4 caucus offices, or however we describe these things, that Brian, who's their legislative aide, would be the point of contact for that office.
Yes.
But I think we would allot them the 2 guests as well. they have a better ratio than all of us. Senator Timberlake.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. Something Representative Dillingham brought up, I just wanted to re-emphasize that I like the list being kept down to security, but I'd really like to make sure that it stays in their hands and isn't passed around about who's in visiting who, and that becomes like the big public knowledge thing in the world. Not that anybody ever comes to visit me, because nobody ever likes me anyway. So I think that's important. People going places with, anyway, just a point I'm throwing out.
President Jackson.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but I mean, I believe it's open to the council.
The guest list, the list would be open to council.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a preference, so I would presume it's a public document. I don't know. I mean, I think the personal information being suppressed, but I don't see how we could prevent it. I mean, I don't know. Senator Timberlake.
I think if someone FOIAs it, it's probably going to be public information, but I don't really need to know who Senator Jackson's meeting with, and he doesn't really need to know who I'm meeting with, and or vice versa. I don't want Representative Dillingham trying to steal my candidates to run for her house. So, but I'm just teasing, a little bit. But that's what I'm saying and thinking about throughout the process is it's kind of somewhat private there, and I don't know why even the council really needs to know, as long as they're abiding by all the rules. I don't know why we need to know, but maybe.
Yeah, I would presume I would presume it would be forwardable, but I also don't see why people would request it. But I think we'd be diving into the law. Senator Daughtry.
Thank you. I just wanted to once again remind folks of life outside of the building that restaurants have to do sign-in and contact tracing no matter what. So this is no different, having everyone sign in, and small businesses have to go through this and have that log on their hands as far as having sensitive data. So I don't think this is too far outside the cuff.
Just make sure Legislative Council doesn't get a hold of your list, Senator Daughtry at the brewery. Senator Jackson. President Jackson, your hand up.
I mean, if it's for constituents, I mean, it should be for constituents. So, I mean, I would just want to make sure that we're bringing constituents in.
Fair enough. Sounds like the log will be maintained by Capitol Police upon entry. Is that my understanding? Yeah. Who gets to house the log? Ms. Gresser, do you envision that the log is maintained by the executive director's office otherwise? So, in terms of like, where is it going to be housed? I guess is at the end of the day, people have checked in, have logged themselves in, logged themselves out, and obviously we want to keep that list, because in case for any reason we need to do contract tracing or whatever, would that list be housed with you?
We could certainly keep that list in the executive director's office.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none. It sounds like, I guess procedurally, Senator Timberlake had made a motion. There was a second. There have been some suggested amendments. So I would wonder if Senator Timberlake would be willing to allow those suggested amendments be adopted into his motion.
I would love to have it happen.
Okay, great. And I forget who seconded the motion, but whomever that was, would they Representative Dillingham? Do you accept this amended? Okay. Senator Pouliot. Thank you. Awesome. Is there any further discussion? So it sounds like effective date will be March 8th. So in the meantime, Ms. Gresser, you can send us over what this revised policy looks like.
Yes, I will do that.
Awesome. Well, with that, I will entertain the roll call.
Okay, Senator Pouliot,
Yes.
Senator Timberlake,
Yes.
Senator Daughtry,
Yes.
Senator Vitelli,
Yes.
Representative Stetkis,
Yes.
Representative Dillingham,
Yes.
Representative Talbot Ross,
Yes.
Representative Dunphy,
Yes.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, it's unanimous.
Unanimous. The motion prevails. Thank you so much. That, I believe, was the last item on old business and the last item requiring action on our agenda. The final item here is announcements and remarks.
Mr. Chair.
Representative Dillingham, Senator Timberlake, and then Senator Pouliot.
Thank you. I actually had a couple things that I just wanted to ask. I see that Director Rendy is here, and I know that the speaker and I had talked about a new rolling out of the way the clerks would be doing their testimony. I was hoping to hear an update on that. I know that they had some firewall issues, so if it's been fixed and if they are doing that, how that's being used. I also had hoped that the clerk was going to be here. I don't think he is. So I didn't know if Ms. Gresser could talk to, I know that they have some bills that they're holding for referencing, and maybe Mr. Speaker, you could talk to it, if not Ms. Gresser, but I'm just, with the bills that are being held for referencing, I thought that we had set up a process that the bills would go to the committees, and the chairs and the leads could have a discussion if there was a concern about the referencing. And normally, you know, it wouldn't be a concern that I raise, except I'm told there's over 100 bills. And so I'm wondering where that breakdown happened and what we had discussed for a plan. And instead, between the clerk and the Senate secretary, there's over 100 bills that are being held from referencing.
Yeah.
So those are my two things that weren't on the docket here.
I'm happy to answer the last question first, Representative Dillingham. So the procedure that we laid out for committees to send a bill elsewhere that was sent to them, that was referenced to them, that they didn't agree with, is certainly a procedure that has been in place. The bills that have been not referenced, either the secretary of the Senate or the clerk of the House didn't agree on the reference, which, you know, they need to agree in order for the reference to be made, or there was not certainty as to where it belonged. And they have held those bills so that when we come in on a session day, that the suggested reference will appear on the calendar, and then if we want to send it somewhere else, we can. But that's the difference there. So yes, that process is in place at the committee level. If a bill got sent somewhere by the clerk and secretary that the committee disagrees with, and I think that's happened in maybe one or two instances, Ms. Gresser may have some additional information on that, but otherwise, there are a number of bills that either there wasn't agreement quite yet, or there was a lack of certainty about where it belonged, and they didn't want to venture into making a decision if they didn't feel like it was 100%. And then I think Mr. Rendy, I think Representative Dillingham's referring to the portal where testimony will be housed, so that members don't have to be, members of committees don't have to be running through their email trying to put their thumb on the piece of testimony during a hearing, which has obviously been a big challenge. So yeah, a status update on that would be great.
Well, I will thank the representative for stealing my thunder. We actually, we've been working on it, as you know, and we actually put the icon to access it up on the committee page late yesterday. I did have an opportunity this morning in the directors meeting to show it to the directors, to kind of give them an idea of where it is and sort of discuss the best way to roll this out to the members at large. Some of them may find it because they're curious, but we thought that getting the committee analysts on board with it, having them ask questions, being able to answer their questions, and then have them introduce it in their committee meetings with their members. So you referring to it, showing them where it is and how to get to it might be the best way to kind of get it rolled down the line to the general members. But I guess what I can show you is what it looks like. And I will share this screen here. Okay, you can all see my screen. This is our homepage. And right now, if you were to pick a particular committee, we'll use ACF for one. I'm sure if you've been in a committee, this page looks familiar to you. You can access, this is today's page for the hearings that are going on in ACF. You can access the audio here. You can access the channel for the YouTube stream. As well, we've added another little icon here. We've tried to make it not obtrusive and not sort of easily findable, because our policy is that we don't put out the submitted testimony to the public until the committee hearing is done, the public hearing is done. So if you go to the page and you query LD 322, and it brings you to the bill text page, and you pick committees and you can see the hearing date, you won't see the public hearing testimony that's been submitted yet. But we did that on purpose to try to make sure that we didn't end up with sort of testimony flame wars, if you will, because people can submit testimony almost 2 weeks before the hearing. If people go in and start reading it, it would be the newspaper comment section all over again. We didn't want that. That said, we did need to put it in a place where members could consume it outside of our firewall. So what we did was we created this little link here, which will take you to a page that is today's public hearing for agriculture, conservation, and forestry. And this is all of the testimony that was submitted through our portal up to, well, it looks like, nope, Mr. Anderson did join twice. I'm not sure why, but this is testimony submitted. This is also people who signed up to testify and didn't necessarily want to submit testimony. For instance, it looks like Stacy Olber here on the page was speaking neither for nor against, but didn't submit testimony. But what we've done is, because we can tell whether they've submitted testimony or not, we add a little page icon, and you can click on that page icon, and it will open up that person's testimony, and it is there for your consumption. And then, when that person's, or if it's somebody speaking, if, for instance, Liam Hughes is speaking, you want to open their testimony's right there. So that's it in a nutshell. You can, the other bills are down here for that were heard today. These controls are all something that our internet person here found and basically built on. Some of it's we've tried to tailor it as best we can to make it make sense for what you're seeing. Some of it we can update, and we're going to obviously tweak it as we go forward and get a little bit more feedback and experience with it. It is sizable, I think. It does kind of scale down. It works on a cell phone. I used it on my cell phone this morning. It works in Edge. It works in Firefox. It works in Chrome. It works in Safari. If you have an older laptop that's running IE11, it won't work. The code that's behind this page is not designed for IE11, and unfortunately, if you're running a very old browser, it's going to be a problem. That said, it's out there, and my plan is to meet with Danielle Fox and some of her staff to get them on board with it. They'll meet with the analysts, and the hope is that by certainly early next week, you know, the analysts will start referring to this page during public hearings and get that information out to the members as quickly as possible. And if you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Nick. I have to say, having seen an earlier iteration of this template, this looks awesome. Definitely has come a long way. Question I have in the column that's titled "Speaking."
Mm-hmm.
Does that indicate that that person signed up with the intention of appearing before the committee on the hearing day?
That is correct.
Okay.
It's just we know that somebody either is speaking or isn't, and it's just if they signed up to speak, they show up at the top as speaking. If they signed up with just written testimony, then it's down there as written.
Okay, awesome. That's super helpful. I know that the members of committees were asking if that would be apparent as well on this, and it's great to see that it is. That's super, super helpful. So appreciate that. Any questions from council for Mr. Rendy? And I apologize because in the sharing screen, I have to zip through everyone. So
no issue.
If your hand is raised, just take me a couple seconds. Senator Pouliot, did you have a question?
Yes.
Thanks.
Nick, is it possible for us to have IT not send us emails with all the testimony if now we can go in and I feel like, I mean, we get, obviously everybody in the world gets a lot of emails, but we get emails for like every piece of legislation that is coming before the committee, all the testimony. It's like a ton of emails. If this is a place we can go get it.
Absolutely. And that actually, that's the next logical step is once we get sort of the members on board with where this is and how to get to it, that's going to be the next step is to eliminate that sort of blast email anytime somebody submits testimony.
Okay, if you want to eliminate me first, I'll sign up.
Unfortunately, it's an all or nothing proposition.
Okay, we'll try to make sure that Senator Pouliot, we get that turned off as soon as possible. I know that members have really been feeling quite overwhelmed by the amount of testimony coming into their inboxes. So I just want to say, I really appreciate all the work you've done and your folks have done, Nick. I know, like everything that you've done over the course of the last several months in gearing us up for doing our business in, a very different way. I really appreciate your flexibility and innovation in terms of, building this boat while we're paddling. I know it's not been easy.
Good way to put it.
I really appreciate how quickly you've been able to, get things to come together like this. I mean, like I said, having seen an earlier iteration of this, it's definitely come together in a really impressive way. So really appreciate that.
Yeah, I really have to give a shout out to Stacy Meringue, who worked very hard on making this work. And he thought he had it done early this week. And he showed it to me and we started looking at it and it's like, oh, you know what? Trying to pick off those few obvious things that will eliminate the questions that are inevitably going to come. So I think the end result was definitely worth the wait. It's worth noting on the page, you notice that this is a drop down and you can actually, if you start on one committee, you can pick another committee. So you can see what appropriations was hearing today. You can actually pick a different date. One of the things that Stacy is going to do is we're going to try to work on maybe getting a calendar picker up here. So once you're in this page, you can actually navigate to different committees and different days. But that said, I think that generally the whole thought is that they'd be accessing it from the committee page. And I know that the OPLA committee, the OPLA office uses this committee materials page a lot, referring to specific LDs. And I think one of the things that they're going to do is they're going to put in here the link to that page, that day's page, or the public hearing for that day's page on this as well. To try to make it a little easier, perhaps when you're in work session, you don't have to remember, was that heard on the 25th or the 23rd, or was it moved or something like that? So they're also taking this now, and they're going to start working with it and hopefully making more use of it as well. So.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Are there any questions, any other questions for Mr. Rendy? Seeing none. I can't wait to tell our members. It's going to be a huge relief. Great. Any other announcements and remarks? Senator Pouliot?
Sure. I just had a couple of things. The first thing was about related to committees. And one of the things that I think had been discussed previously, and I'm wondering what's going on with it, is like last week I had a public hearing on a bill, and that got canceled because of weather. And then we moved it in my calendar, and the Zoom link had like changed, and the Zoom link that I had in my calendar, you know, wasn't the proper one anymore. So then, you know, I was like 10 minutes late to the public hearing today. It just kind of delayed things. And so I'm wondering, and I'm sure I'm not the only one experiencing this, like trying to find the right Zoom link. You'd think Zoom as a big company would figure out a way to, like, you know, synthesize these into one spot. But I'm wondering if we, from a technology perspective, where we have Mr. Rendy, could, or perhaps it's already being worked on, to kind of assimilate Zoom links for public hearings. So like, you know, if you're going to be a participant, either as, because I've had constituents tell me too, that for whatever reason, even though they were sent the Zoom link, something happened. If we were able to tell constituents and also us as legislators, just go to this spot, you'll see a list of Zoom links, you know, with the date, click on it. And then I'm sure what I'm saying is a tremendous amount of work and challenging, but I think it would really help with participation and keeping us on time on the process.
Yeah, Nick, if you want to answer that.
Actually, the answer to your question is very simple. The ramifications of that answer are very problematic. And the Zoom links that are provided to members are member specific. They are your link. It is unique to you, and it invites you to join as a panelist. So you have full control in the webinar. You can do what you'd like. You can talk, you can chat. The links that are provided to outside members of the public, that unknown quantity is how I refer to it. They're the attendees. They're the ones that sit in the audience and don't speak or are heard from unless they're recognized. To put a link out to say, here's our link to our meeting. If you need it, go get it. That's what ends up creating Zoom bombing, where you end up with multitudes of people joining a meeting for whatever reason. With the webinar feature, it's not as much of a problem because those people would just join as attendees. However, if you have a public hearing that you're expecting 15 or 20 people to testify, and for whatever reason somebody decided to do a flash mob and 300 people show up, it's going to make navigating that list for the clerk extremely difficult to try to find those people who they need to promote to attendees so that they can testify. So that's one problem. Another problem is that our webinar licenses allow up to 500 people to participate. That includes panelists, that's you and the staff, as well as attendees. And if we hit that, and if for some reason we end up with, again, you know, some event, somebody decides they're going to have some fun or do something nefarious, and they get a whole bunch of people to sign up or a whole bunch of people to join, and we reach that 500 limit before you've joined the meeting, you couldn't join the meeting. That's a problem. So that's sort of those are the ramifications of just providing a generic link for everybody to have. That said, we're looking at options and possibilities for giving, for creating that anonymous link, but not giving it to everybody. Still requiring them to register through our portal to speak or to testify, and then they'll be provided the link. And we do run the risk of them providing that link to whoever they want. It is kind of a double-edged sword. Trying to trying to give your unique panelist link to you for every meeting would be impossible. It's not something that the Zoom API, the program interface that we use to address Zoom, it's not something that Zoom provides. So we couldn't say, put Matt's Zoom link here and put, Bill's Zoom link there. So that would be a fairly difficult thing to do. So I think the solution is ultimately putting the links somewhere where they can be relatively secure and provided to the members who need them, and basically providing them, providing them, in an ad hoc fashion. So you would go somewhere, you would find your meeting, and you would click on the link, and it would be the same link that all of the committee members use and the public uses. The difference is that the clerk would see the committee members joining, would have to immediately promote them rather than have them join as a panelist. So there's some things to work out with it. It is something that's on our radar. We definitely recognize the whole testimony thing as something that was kind of paramount. We wanted to get through that first. So that's basically the next thing on our list, is to come up with a better way to deliver a link that is usable, but as secure as we can perhaps make it, so that we don't run into problems.
That makes sense, because I know members share their links with other people. I was on a hearing yesterday, and Representative Lookner shared his with someone else on the Criminal Justice Committee because they couldn't find their link to get into the meeting. So,
and what happens there is if Representative Lookner has a link that is tied to his name, you'll have two people joined as Representative Lookner.
yeah, and then they just click the button and change their name.
But that kind of highlights that they are, those links to as panelists are very personalized. And so, it's going to require a little bit of design, a little bit of thought as to how we implement this to make sure that we don't run into problems that Zoom had last year.
It seems like you could just create, though, an invite for info@whatevercommittee.com or something, and have that be a panelist link, and then have everybody in the committee use that link, and then just change their name when they get in.
But that works. Unfortunately, the link to join doesn't work that way. If we were to create one link that way, everybody would use that link, and then we'd have a problem because attendees can't change their names. So we'd have some issue. I think we just need to flush it out. We need to think about it. It's something we definitely have been giving some consideration to. We just need to kind of make sure that we implement it in a way that makes the most sense.
Thank you very much. I just had two other quick things. Speaker Fecto.
Oh, sorry. I said go ahead, but I was on mute.
Oh, sorry. So the only other two things that I had were about presentations in committee. And so, this is just something that I was kind of hoping to discuss, because I mentioned to Senator Jackson that I would bring it up today in hopes that we could have some discussion about moving forward. And Senator Jackson had a good presentation in front of our committee the other day, and I don't have a problem with it at all personally. It's just that I'd like for there to be an equal baseline for what expectations are. The presentation, involved a PowerPoint presenting the bill and also a video that was recorded. And this isn't, I'm not trying to cause any, ill will here or anything. I just want us to be on the same page so that we can know what to tell our constituents. I recognize we're using a new platform now. This is something that, is not something we've had access to before, the Zoom, with the ability to kind of load the PowerPoint right into the Zoom. I think, frankly, it's a good way to perhaps share information with committee members, particularly folks like myself who are visual learners. But we had reached out to a committee clerk a couple of days ago, asking if a constituent could submit a bill, like a PowerPoint with their presentation and stay within the 3 minutes for a bill that Senator Searway had around firefighters, and they were told no. So I'm just, I'm hoping, I guess one way is to say, well, this is up to the committees to decide, but I don't necessarily think that's a fair approach to take for our constituents. And so if we're going to allow videos and PowerPoints moving forward, I'm fine with that. But I just would like it to be the same standard for everybody. If we could have that discussion, that would be great.
Yeah, I think we should definitely give that some thought. I mean, Senator Jackson. President Jackson.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I think I told Senator Cooley at the time, I mean, you know, there's been PowerPoints been presented in committees before we ever had Zoom meetings. People have given out information. You know, last year in ACF, there was videos played on aerial herbicides clearing by both sides, opponents and proponents. So I don't see, I mean, it's up to the chair's discretion. I think people coming forward and asking for these things to be used and have a consistent policy on it. So, I mean, and the video that I used was 1 minute long to show something that I knew very well opponents were going to say that was not happening. And so I used it to make sure that that argument was taken away, just like I would have done last session before COVID in a public hearing setting.
Yeah, I just want to be clear, Senator Jackson, this isn't about you and your bill, even though it brought it to my attention. It's more about a larger discussion about what we're going to do for all committees, because I don't think it's fair to leave it up to the jurisdiction of the chair. One chair might say yes, the other no. And then we, tell our constituents, you can share a video in your public testimony, and then they say they can't. It's just more about having, continuity.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't, Ms. Gresser, you might have some information for us about what the rules state that the committee's adopted. But when I chaired a committee, we did not allow there to be such presentations. You couldn't have materials provided in addition as supplement to your testimony. It was written testimony that you read and not additional materials. I think I'm getting really bad feedback. Can we make sure everyone's on mute? And I'll unmute myself. Thank you. So, I mean, I'm not sure if that was because the committee rules that we adopted in the LCRED committee back then, we adopted the committee rules that stated that, or we changed them to state that, but that was the practice we had. I would be very nervous about having anyone who's testifying being able to share their screens and providing videos and supplemental presentations, because I think there could be things. I feel like we get into we could venture down a very challenging road with what is being shared, the nature of those videos and images, in terms of, like, if we're talking about slaughtering animals, for example, are we going to have someone with a presentation with images of slaughtered animals? I mean, I think we just have to be thoughtful about those kinds of things, and I think that's why in the past we didn't, at least when I chaired a committee, we didn't allow that sort of stuff. But Representative Dillingham.
Thank you. Never chaired a committee, wish I had the opportunity to do so, but I do know in our committee, along the same lines, never allowed the use of props and such during public hearing. It's one thing when you have anyone coming from the executive branch and doing a presentation, but just for regular, those presenting a bill or testifying on the bill wasn't something that I ever experienced. I'm more along the lines with Senator Pouliot, though, that if that is going to be the standard and it is going to be accepted, I know you and I, Mr. Speaker, have talked several times about making sure that there's consistency along the process with all of our committees, and that it shouldn't be left to a committee clerk or a committee chair deciding, making these decisions. That we're finding that the public is definitely more engaged, having this platform ability to participate in our committees, and they should be able to expect the same rules and the same parameters from one committee to the next. And I hope that that is something that we continue to work towards. I know I'd like to have a further conversation with you about some concerns that were brought to me by my caucus today. And I'll get those to you, but it all goes along the lines of making sure that we have consistency and there isn't preferential treatment given to any individuals in one particular committee over another.
Yeah, I mean, and I should have clarified, you know, in a work session setting, if a member of the legislature or a stakeholder had a presentation or supplementing documentation that was helpful, and we invited that person to come up and share it. I mean, that of course was at the chair's discretion, but oftentimes those things would be presented. But I think in my time, never at a public hearing. So, Senator Timberlake.
I'm actually on another issue. I'm staying out of this issue.
Okay.
This is somebody else's. So when you get all done talking about this one, I guess I'd like to bring up.
Duly noted.
And can you imagine being my teacher when I was in the 6th grade, the way I rock and twist around?
President Jackson.
Well, I guess I'm just a little surprised that I've been here for 18 years and I've certainly watched presentations in multiple committees. I didn't hear anyone opposing, the industry showing videos of how they do aerial herbicide spraying last session. Not a peep from anyone. So I guess I'm just wrong. I guess it's the issue that probably is a problem for some, but it's fine. We won't show any videos unless it works with people's opinions, I guess.
Well, Senator Jackson, I just want to be clear. It's not about you or the issue. I know it could seem that way, but I want continuity across the board for everybody. And so, and if we're not going to do it, I'm fine with that too. I just, either way, I just would make sure all members are afforded the same opportunity to serve their constituents, with the same rules. That's all.
Yeah, I agree. I wish legislative council would have done that in the last 15, 20 years, but that's fine. Let's make that a policy.
Ms. Gresser, could we get some information in the interim, perhaps not necessarily for the next legislative council meeting, but over email about what the committee rules state currently?
Yeah, the model committee rules as well as individually adopted committees.
Yeah, as it relates to this specific.
As it relates to this particular, yes.
Yep, thank you. Senator Timberlake. Oh, good. I'm kidding.
Thank you. I know you guys get sick of watching me rock back and forth and slide back and forth. So.
I thought you had left. I was ready to adjourn. No, that's
One other issue very similar to that is I think we need to make a determination, or in my opinion, in the chairs and leads meetings, whether they're going to be made public or whether they're going to be kept private, because we're hearing some committees are making chairs and leads private and some committees are making public. And they either got to be all one or all the other. I personally think that we could create some better legislation if chairs and leads could have a conversation that they didn't have to worry about every single word that came out of their mouth. You know how I worry about those things when I talk. Not really, but I do think that there is some real concern that we treat all committees exactly the same, and either chairs and lead meetings are all public, or chairs, none of the chairs and leads meetings are public. It's not what the clerk or the chair of that committee decides. I think there has to be consistency for the exact same reason we just talked about the previous conversation.
Yeah, totally hear you on that as well. Any other remarks or announcements? President Jackson. President Jackson, no. Senator Pouliot.
Thanks. So just a last thing, and I would like for us to end on a good note. We've had a great legislative council session today, and I don't want to be contentious about this. I have a question regarding the parameters that are being used to decide when we might come back to a work in person. And I could go on and on about why I'd love for us to do that. I've missed the kind of conversations that we have in the hallway that take maybe 20 seconds to talk about something that now require us to schedule a Zoom meeting and put on our calendar and that kind of stuff. I think we're missing out on some of the really good things that happen in the legislative process because we're not here. And I know we just discussed at length just letting visitors in and how long that took. So I don't expect us to get in this conversation today. But if at some point, majority leadership could let us know what kind of parameters are being used so that we can share with folks, look, we're not here yet, but when we get to this point, that's when we're going to be able to go back to the State House. It would help create some kind of light at the end of the tunnel with regard to this issue of when we're going to be back in person or not. I recognize there's a few dates on the calendar. Today's one of them where we're going to do confirmation hearings, and then maybe March 10th and 11th, I heard, to do some perhaps votes on bills or whatnot. But any kind of parameters or whatever that we could share with folks about when we might go back to being, we're never going to be back to normal, but at least somewhat, maybe 1 or 2 days a week, being at the State House.
Any other announcements or remarks? Seeing none. Motion to adjourn. Moved by Representative Talbot Ross, seconded by Senator Timberlake. Raise your hand or some indication that you're in favor. Anyone opposed? Okay, I think that's where it comes down to. No one's opposed, so motion prevails. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time.